This is the all-new Lexus RC350 F Sport. This is their attempt at rebooting the sport coupe for the brand. Now, I'm not gonna lie, it certainly looks the part, but the worry is it's just another car that's all show and no go. Let's take a look. The RC350 is one of those cars, it's just not much work photographing it or doing video, because at most angles it looks really good, specifically with this color. Now you come to the front end, and again, you get this wide response. Some people saying it's a piece of art, that it's elegant, all the way down to people thinking it looks absolutely grotesque. Most of the concepts that incorporated the spindle grille from the start had these really sweeping long lines, and you can tell on this car it makes a lot more sense. It doesn't look all distorted like it did on the NX, and of course that's subjective. This is the first Lexus I've been in recently where people have actually stopped to talk to me about it, have come up to it and been like, wow, what is that? Or cranked their head to look at it. And that says something. It could also be this great blue paint that just brings out all the character lines of the car. Now, when you're looking at the photos of this vehicle, you're kind of like, well, it looks like it's just got a big ass body kit, right? But when you get up to it, you can see all these sculpted pieces, the sculpted body panels that just kind of flow from the front to the back. And that's kind of hard to do with certain cars. Here, it just works. One of my favorite elements is the rear quarter panel of this car. The way that it flows into the rear bumper, it looks really aggressive. It reminds me of some of the vintage Porsche looks almost. Now, when you get closer to the RC, you realize there's more detail work here, like the aero treatments on the rear taillights, the bear claws in the rear bumper. The front bumper has some aero treatments, and then there's some air directors in front of the passenger and driver's side window. All this helps smooth air around the car, over the back, creates just less wind turbulence, less drag, and a quieter riding interior. Whenever you get an F Sport package on a Lexus, you're gonna get appearance pieces. The RC is no different. With this car, you get the bigger version of the spindle grille with matte chrome and chrome. You get the F Sport badges, the F Sport wheels, and then you get these fancy little LED driving lights on the bottom, which are also extra. When you look at the headlight design, it's got this concave element to it, and you don't really notice it in pictures until you get up close, and you can kind of appreciate the design more. It also features these bold and really bright LED running lights underneath. What were you gonna say?
So you brought me another little toy car?
This is not a toy car, this is all man.
Why is that?
Because it's got a front tie bar on the power steering rack.
Those are gonna be all over eBay pretty soon.
But how many millimeters is this tie bar, Scott?
Well, let me pull out my micrometer and find out. It is 12 millimeters.
How big is this sway bar?
28.
28? So up front we have a combination of a couple things. We have extensive use of aluminum, lower control arms. The subframe is aluminum. Your knuckle and your hub are aluminum. And we have Tokiko single adjustable dampers. What else we got?
Tires.
There's one big disappointment on the front end of this car.
It's not front wheel drive.
No, that's okay. I could deal with that.
Oh,
There's no adjustable camber in the front.
no, there's not.
And for a car like this, I can kind of accept it in the IS, right? The IS350. But this is trying to be more of a sports car.
But it's the same thing, but a two-door.
Well, yes and no. It's not an IS chassis. This isn't a dedicated platform. It is a combination of multiple cars. So in terms of suspension, the front suspension on this car is based on the GS platform, double wishbone, and the rear of the car is based on the IS platform, which is a pretty advanced multi-link, especially when you add in the four-wheel steering. Why couldn't they just do a simple eccentric bolt right in the control arms? Why is that so hard? Because it creates a little bit of vibration, reliability.
Mm-hmm.
When we come to the middle of the car, this RCF Sport, you get this 8-speed automatic transmission, which is manufactured by Aisin. And what Toyota's managed to do here is manufacture or design an 8-speed automatic that actually takes up about as much space as a typical 6-speed automatic gearbox. Now the cool thing about that is, like when we were looking at the Genesis, which had an 8-speed automatic in a V8, that thing was huge.
3 feet long.
So they designed something that was compact, small, but it is a torque converted unit. It's not a dual clutch or a single clutch unit. But the trick that they're able to do is locking up the torque converter here to give you more, well, quicker or faster shifts in first, second, and third. And they really do feel direct. It almost fools you. So as we move closer to the back, what do you see here, Scott?
Dual exhaust.
You like that, don't you?
Mm-hmm. I just unbolt it right here and put some dumps and throw that stuff in the garbage.
I agree.
But it still sounds like crap because it's a V6.
What, do you need V8 power for that?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I get the RCF. Makes more sense.
This is for the wife.
Now the four-wheel steering system, Lexus cleverly dubs as LDH, and that stands for Lexus Dynamic Handling. Now, it works in conjunction with the actual variable gear steering in the front end. So your steering in the front is constantly adjusting based on speed and load, and there's a ride height sensor in the back that helps the entire suspension to be variable or adaptive based on conditions. So not only does it change based on your mode selection, it's constantly adjusting based on speed, yaw rate. All the sensors are working together to adjust these dampers, to adjust the four-wheel steering and the front-wheel steering with the adjustable gear ratio. The system is designed to help you turn at under 50 miles an hour. So what does it do?
Turns the wheels the opposite way of the fronts.
Yeah. So over 50 miles an hour, what does it do?
Turn the same way.
So why would you want that?
I'd want it the opposite way all the time, like a monster truck. I need manual control of my rear steer.
But the whole point is so you're going to get better steering feel at the lower speeds, and then you're actually getting better steering feel at higher speeds, more confidence, because all four wheels are turning at the same time. And it's so hard to describe the handling dynamics of this car, especially when you're romping on it. After looking at the back, while it's a negative, again, there's no adjustability here in your alignment except for toe. Now, having
it has variable toe.
And variable toe at that, right? So your alignment's already going to be complicated with the four-wheel steering system. However, taking out camber adjustment in the back for most of your mechanics is
a simple alignment.
Right. Or how did you say you're going to get more camber out of this?
Well, if you want to show the customer you got more camber, just pull down on the car real hard while the gauges are on it and press print.
That's how it's done. So Scott, the other thing Lexus somewhat did right here is they didn't put the same goofy tires as they did on the IS.
It should be the other way around.
Yeah, you would think, right? So what you get is Dunlop SP Sport Max tires on this car that have a 280 tread wear instead of the ridiculous 140 tire wear that the IS had. When we get under here, Scott, this is the same motor we've seen for years.
Pretty much, it looks like it.
Yeah, been around for about 10 years. We talked about this in great length with the IS350, and this is the same motor in the IS350. Tried and true. Direct and port injection has a huge benefit. You get good fuel economy, and then you get those intake valves washed off by your port injection. So you don't have to deal.
But how much better fuel economy than one without direct injection.
Well, your city fuel economy is going to drop with just port.
Right.
You're losing
But how much?
probably 3 to 4 miles per
Think
gallon.
that much?
Yeah, easily. Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's not just fuel economy that's different. It's emissions. In the corners of the car, you can see the adjustable motors for the dampers in the front, and the rear has something similar. So these are the control modules that handle the variable adjustment of the suspension. The other thing that this car has that I really like, especially after being in the NX, is it has a sound tube. And the sound tube routes induction sound into the cabin without making a digital reproduction of it like many cars are doing today.
Can you put a bigger sound tube in it?
You know, they don't have adapters. They don't have JDM adapters like they do for the FRS. There's a Dodge Charger SRT behind me during that launch, and the guy was just glued to my bumper that whole acceleration run. And I think that kind of sums up this car's horsepower. It's almost completely adequate for every scenario. I mean, you always feel a sense of urgency, a sense of power with this car. But when you put it next to something that is more of a sports car, something with a lot of horsepower in a straight line, there's nothing to it, really. I mean, it's a 3.5 liter, it's 306 horsepower. It's gonna feel great on your daily drive, but it's certainly no track monster. The cool thing about this car compared to, let's say, the IS350 F Sport is it allows you to get a little sideways. It feels more like a rear-wheel drive car. And that's exacerbated when you go into Sport Plus mode and you actually turn off the traction control by holding down that button for 3 or 4 seconds. Now you have to do that when you're at a stop, but when you do it, it feels more lively. You can get a lot of wheel slip. The stability control system is still on. It won't let you get completely sideways, which is one of the biggest disappointments here. Because from a sports car perspective, you want to be able to turn all that off. But overall, there's this sense of agility here. You know, it's a Lexus. They want it to be safe. This is not just a go sideways everywhere car. When you're really on the throttle, when you're really pushing this car, it still feels balanced. You feel that rear-wheel drive aspect, but never do you get a sense that it's out of control. Let's go down into the turns and see how this is. Brakes are sensitive. Well, this is going to be a great car for most people that just want to have a little bit of fun on the street. I mean, it's got this sports car feel to it, especially when you're in Sport Plus mode. You can almost breathe on the steering wheel and it turns direction. And that's something that's really hard to do unless you're building a balls-to-the-wall performance car. Okay, let's check out the acceleration here. Again, when you're in Sport Plus mode on this car in the drive selector and your traction control is completely off, it's the most aggressive setting for this motor and transmission. It revs higher, it downshifts more directly, it upshifts quicker, and it will let you bang into the rev limiter without auto upshifting for you. And that's a huge, huge benefit when you have an automated manual gearbox like this, especially in a sportier car. My biggest pet peeve is when you have a car that just auto upshifts for you when you're trying to drive in an aggressive manner. Now this car will actually auto upshift for you when you're in like eco mode or normal mode, but that Sport Plus setting is an enthusiast's best friend. This car is really good. And it's not a track car. This is not a hardcore sports car, but it gives you this huge amount of balance on the street as a daily driver. You get the comfort, you get the luxury, you get kind of the prestige in the way that it looks, and then you get some pretty good performance without being overkill on the street while still getting good fuel economy. Now, I'm back in drive, out of manual, and I'm in Sport Plus, and you can kind of hear the engine revs are up a little bit. Now I'm going to flip this back to normal mode. Now the transmission comes back down to earth, chooses a higher gear, and that's kind of the polar opposite between eco mode. The transmission in eco mode will choose the highest gear possible at any given point for smoothness and overall fuel efficiency. As soon as you go back into Sport Plus mode, it drops a gear, it's ready to rev, and that's kind of the difference in the transmission behavior or programming. We'll go back into normal mode here again. The other thing when you switch into eco mode is it does more than just holds a higher gear. It actually will turn down your fan speed for your air conditioning. It will cycle the compressor less. There's a lot of little electronic programming tricks that it does. So eco mode is not just a glorified, green LED in the dash. In terms of fuel economy, my best tank average was around 25 miles per gallon. Now that's in mixed driving. On highway, I saw as much as 27, but that was rare. My overall driving experience has been in, let's have a look here. 20.3 miles per gallon, and that is just driving like a maniac for this tank. So to kind of sum up the driving experience of the RC is, this is a more sporty, more refined car than the IS350 F Sport is. This feels more like a legitimate sports car. But there's a couple negative things that it has going for it that I don't particularly care for. As good as the trickery is with the automatic transmission here and having different drive selectors and programming to make it feel smooth and then make it feel aggressive, you could eliminate all that and create a manual transmission. That's exactly what would make this car shine for the enthusiast. In fact, I wouldn't even need a car like the RCF if you put a manual trans in here. That's how much I like it. But it doesn't have that option, and it's really frustrating. The second thing is, for a sports car, you want the ability to completely disable all the nannies. And I can't do that in here. Yes, I can turn off the traction control. Yes, I can hold revs on the automated manual trans. But when it comes down to it, when I'm driving hardcore, I want to be able to be in complete control of this vehicle, and I can always feel some assist cutting in. Now, one of the big knocks I've read about the RC350, not only from the enthusiasts online, but other media outlets, of course, is Lexus's continued use of the 3.5-liter V6 in here. Now, when I say in here, I mean this is a fresh face for Lexus, an aggressive-looking coupe. It has these sporty pretensions. It looks like a hardened sports car. So why would you recycle that engine for this? And in some cases, I do understand that. But in the other side of it is, this is a car that is not designed just to be a sports car. It's designed to be a car that somebody can buy and daily drive and be comfortable every day and still have that element of sportiness where you can go around and pound on this on the street and feel like you're in a legitimate hardcore sports car. And that's one of its best suits. Now, as it relates to the 3.5 liter, in the IS, I constantly felt like there was something missing there. The tuning was off. I wasn't sure. But when I got into this car, that was my worry, that it was going to feel the same. And it doesn't. And I can't quantify it, and I can't prove that the tuning's different, but it sure feels a lot more edgy in here. It feels more sports car. The motor feels like it's got a lot more going for it. Could be placebo. I don't know. But I think they've struck a balance here between reliability of having, this motor that has port and direct injection. You don't have to worry about having to do intake valve maintenance with this car. You don't have to worry about a lot of the maintenance of the higher performance engines from some of the other brands. And that alone makes this one of the most appealing, sporty, coupes and actually kind of pseudo sports cars that you can buy. When I got into the RC350 F Sport, my first thought was Lexus is almost, if not perfected, the sports car / luxury car interior at a good price range. A lot of the quirks that I complained about on the IS350F Sport are gone here. You actually have memory seats. You have legitimate center console storage, as in the armrest has enough space to store more than sunglasses. Your cup holder size now can actually fit a phone or a normal size American cup. Lexus engineers have almost mastered the art of understanding human interaction with materials. No other car manufacturer, at least in this price range, gets it as much as they do. And that's a big thing. That means wherever you're putting your hands, your knees, your elbows, there's quality, soft materials there. It's comforting. It feels good. Good tactile feedback. Where you don't need high quality materials, they don't put it. Like by your ankles, up top. Near the top of the dashboard, you get harder plastics. But they've mastered the use of different blends of materials here, so you get this element of high quality at not this exorbitant price tag. The recent generation of Lexus cars have this kind of standardized center stack here, where you have all your physical controls without being cluttered, of course. But the nicest thing about this is I don't have to resort to using the infotainment to change things like HVAC or radio stations. You still have a tuning knob and you have a volume knob down here. The F-Sport steering wheel. It's about as sports car as you can expect. The button layout here is pretty simple. You have your physical control to move your gauge cluster over and back. Again, it's mechanical, so you can switch between screens and like USB media or Bluetooth media radio stations. All these controls are right at your fingertips. The only problem I found is my palm constantly hits this voice activation button. It's usually on turns, so that's one annoyance I found. The paddle shifters are extremely solid in feel, despite them being plastic. There's never a question of, well, did I click it or not? It's right there. One of the negatives here that they've done on the IS and on this car that they didn't do on the NX200T is this digi turn signal stalk. It doesn't have a tactile click like a typical turn signal. When you turn a turn signal, it clicks into place mechanically, and then you can either force it back or it returns on its own. This doesn't have a physical stay. So you kind of have to learn when you have your turn signal on, and I still have problems turning this all the way on when I didn't mean to. Now Lexus has started to move away from the joystick to this RTI, which is remote touch interface, a la mouse pad control. This mouse pad controls your screen. It's not a touch screen. Now the thing is with the Lexus infotainment is it's a mixed bag. Some cars are laggy, like slow to respond to your inputs. Some seems like the mouse pad jumps all over the place and it's hard to control. With this car, it seems to be pretty stable. Until the other day I was using it and the screen just went black. And I couldn't get the screen to come back on until I turned the car off and on. Then the second day, I actually lost sound out of the right side of the speakers. It was only coming out of the driver's side speakers. And I thought to myself, well, did I hit something? Well, clearly I didn't. I went into the EQ and it was fine. Now I found that if you hold down the volume button or volume power button for I think 10-15 seconds, it will actually reboot the head unit. When I did that, everything came back online. If you watch my other reviews, you know how important lighting is to me, especially on the interior. And Lexus has done an extremely good job with that, from their cheap models to their expensive models. This car is no different, and it takes it to another level here. Because when you're getting an ultra-modern interior like this, the lighting is a part of it. They've added this door panel LED lighting that runs along this behind this whole metal trim. It looks so futuristic, so modern, and so elegant without being cheesy at all. I love it. I wish I had it in my car, honestly. Across the rest of the interior, all the colors of the LEDs match. All the hue is the same. I've gotten into Hyundais where the gauge cluster was a totally different color than the LEDs on the door and the dash. They don't have any mix-ups here. Everything matches across the whole interior. Then you get to this door light, this dome light rather. It's touch sensitive, which they added to the NX, but now they have this diffuser on the center LED light up here, which softens the color. It's not harsh. It's just another nice touch that you wouldn't notice. The only mistake that they made here, and Turbowski pointed this out, of course, is they have all these LED lights in here, and then you get to this door light. And it's like they forgot to put it in there, and at the last second, they're like, oh, damn, we need a door light. And they put a filament bulb in there. Of course, doesn't match up to the rest of the LEDs of the car. I've gone on and on about how much I love this interior, how perfect it is. And that's not the case, because there's some serious problems. And most importantly, I think Lexus really hates me because it's 95 degrees out right now with 100% humidity. I've sweat through my underwear. I feel like I'm running through the jungles in Predator because it's so hot, and these cooled seats do not work at all. And I really hope it's this press car and not all of them, because if it was all of them, you could pretty much get rid of this feature. It's worthless. The second thing I don't like is the glove box. Well, it's adequate, it's easy to get to, but the owner's manual is the size of War and Peace. Why does it need to be so big? And yeah, I'm nitpicking, but why not? We're talking about negatives, right? The next thing is there's no door cup holders. Now, I know that they can massage plastics to get at least maybe a small bottle in there, but the door storage is almost unusable. Last but not least, and unfortunately I have to end this on a more negative note, but we're talking about the back seats here. This is really a glorified two-seat car. The back seats, I have put storage, like camera cases in there. But the other day I was driving around having a good old time. Next thing I look at my analog clock in here, which I apparently couldn't tell time on, and it was 6:30. And I was late to pick up Bernard after pulling a double at Chuck E. Cheese. So I pulled up at Chucky, and he was mad. He was playing in the ball pit and everything, trying to calm down. But he went to go get in this back seat by pulling this little handle, and this seat kind of folds forward, and then the actual electronic part of the seat takes over to move it forward and back. And this seat takes so long to move forward or back when you want to get somebody back there that I could go to White Castle, have a sack attack, go to Home Depot, get all the building materials I need to build a storage shed, and then go for a nightcap somewhere before this seat moves up. I hate how slow this thing is. It's just ridiculous. And when you want to put cargo in the back or a person, forget about it. So this is the conclusion. What do you think of this car, honestly?
It's pretty nice. It's fun to drive. Sounds good inside the car. Wish it had some tone out of the back, but
You said the other day that this is your favorite car that we've tested.
yeah, so far, which is shocking.
But that's the funny part.
This is a fun car.
Right, it is fun. But the weird part is we got out of the IS, which is the same motor and transmission. Why is that so different?
Something's different with the gear ratio or tuning would be my guess. Something's different. The only thing that I think they need to do is make that trans shift faster to make it a lot more fun.
Right, I agree with you. But even knocking this, and I'm not really knocking the trans in here because it is good for what it
Right,
is.
it's good, but it could be a lot better.
Right, yeah. Now the thing that you get with this trans, and this is the counterpoint to it, most of the Lexus owners are buying it for smoothness, for luxury, the luxury aspect of it. And with a torque converted transmission, it's smooth as hell. Like when you're not driving it like that, it's smooth as butter. So
It's a luxury sport coupe. That's what it is.
And that's your bottom line. If you want higher performance, you got to go with the RCF.
Mm-hmm.
But as this stands, I like it a lot.
Yep, I would definitely lease it.
Yeah, this would be a really, really fun car to daily drive.
Mm-hmm.